So for this last sprint, I was working on making these plan cards more dynamic, so it actually shows a preview of the actual activities inside of the card. So you can see here we have new plan right here, CS Lab in Josh's house. So we click on it and we see there's a bug where if you click on it, it doesn't show the right things first. When you click on it again, it actually shows it's actually happening. So CS Lab, Josh's house, we have 3 additional activities here, and so when we go back we can see that we have like a little preview there. For this plan right here, Disneyland Park and a test, um, also that bug, that the issue that I was talking about, but Disneyland Park test, and like a random custom activity here. So what it does is it adds the first activity inside of the first activity slot. So if there's 2 things in each activity slot, it only grabs the first one, that one that I was added first. And also, this is also a bug where it's showing, this is a deleted plan in the database, but for some reason it keeps on rendering because the plan ID still exists. Still working on getting that fixed up for this week's demo. But yeah, you can see I have this empty plan right here, and I have a little message that says no activities yet, click to start planning. When you click on it, there's actually no activities. So let me just go ahead and add a movie theater. So Regal Cinemas. And when I go back, it doesn't render right away. I have to like click away and go back. That's also a bug I need to work on. But it'll show. It just takes a while to show. But yeah, it also works for the profile screen as well. There's a lot of empty ones here, still pretty buggy, but you can see it still works and it has all of the samples. And see, testing Regal Cinema LA Live 14. Still don't know why it's not loading right away. That's something I want to be able to work on and fix for the demo, like I said, but that's about it. So the commits, I mostly worked at the end of the sprint. That's why you see all my commits are 2 days ago. So I have showing name for first activity. So basically just showing the first one here, only for like Google Places activities. And then now the next one I got it to show the custom activities as well. So if you make, the user makes their own activities, it'll show, like for example, the CS Lab or Josh's house. Showing both preview activities on cards, which means just like now it was showing 2 of the activities rather than just the first one. And then the last commit is working on showing the correct number of additional activities and having that little message for empty plans that says like, oh, there's nothing here yet. So for the first commit, showing name for first activity if it's not a custom activity, so Google Places. So basically on the plan card component, I had a component will mount function that basically took in all of the activity slots from that plan. And it just basically, I had to check to see if it exists. There's a lot of levels in our database, so which makes it kind of confusing. That's why you have this really ugly if statement, because I just have to have that error checking happening. And yeah, I just basically have this function called get activity name where I pass in the Google Places ID for the activity. And basically what that does, get activity name, is right here. It checks to see if it has a little dash in front of it. If it does have a dash, that means it's a database custom plan. If not, it's an API thing. And so basically I call the API, I pass in the place ID and our API key, obviously. And I just basically grab the name here and I return it. And there is when, this is where I set the first activity name to the state. And if we go down here, that's where we render it. So yeah, that's the first one. So for the custom activity, in the first slot, I basically, in get activity name, that same function, I just added this chunk of code that basically pulls the activity name from the database based on the ID that it gives us. It still returns the same thing. So yeah, that's about it for this function or for this commit. It was giving me weird errors when I tried to do both of the activities at the same time, and so I just basically did the same thing. But then, yeah, I just basically did the same thing here for the second activity. Showing correct number of additional activities and message for empty plans. So basically here I had to create a couple new states. I basically had to make two booleans that checked to see if there was a first and second activity. And then I had another state that just counted the rest of the activities. And so basically here, if there's something in the first activity slot, then I'm going to go ahead and set that state to true, because it's going to do some conditional rendering later on. And then same thing here. And if the second one exists, you're also going to set that second activity exists to true as well. And once I'm inside of this statement, once the second activity slot exists, I check to see if a third activity slot exists. And then from there, I basically just count all of the activities inside of plan and I subtract 2, aka the first one, and that's how I get the number of additional activities that aren't showing on the little preview section. So it's basically the same thing. Render activities, I basically just checked to see if the first state and the second state exists. If there's only one activity there and the second activity doesn't exist, then I just show one thing. So that's kind of shown here, the art crawl thing, so it doesn't render this little arrow or this circle here. And if both of them exist, then I'm going to basically display both of them, as you can see here. And the last part is if there's no activities there's no activities in the plan yet, then I'm just going to have this little icon. It says no activities, click to start planning. And yeah, that's about it for that. So Team Gantt, you can see here, I did some follow-ups with the location search, so I helped Rachel with kind of understanding basically this whole thing, and she just had to style it to make it look more attuned with the rest of the stuff. So spent a couple hours with her just getting her sped up with what's going on. But then the majority of chunk of my time was spent on the dynamic plan cards, which you see I spent 10.6 hours here. And since this is the last week, there's basically nothing else to do. So yeah, that's about it.